Hi, and welcome to the next broadcast, the sixth broadcast of Caught in the Third Act. I felt like an idiot because I was muted, and I just realized that. So, mm, anyhow, what I was saying was that sorry about the earlier broadcast. If you happen to see it pop up, there was an issue, and is an issue, with the Restream.io desktop app that was preventing YouTube viewers from actually being able to interact with the stream in general. Uh, Basically, my chat client, the Restream app client on my desktop, isn't connecting to YouTube for whatever reason, and that was preventing the YouTube chat from appearing in stream. Whereas their web client apparently works fine, so I had to switch over to that, and they're going to look into what's going on with the desktop app version. So that problem should be fixed. So if you have any messages, if you want to say anything, feel free. You should actually be able to see your message on stream, and I should be able to interact with you as well. Anyhow, down to business. When I last left you here, I was working on the first taste, the short story for Aoi, our antagonist, um, just to kind of work her out, figure out who she is and what she's all about, and I'm still working on that. I actually haven't done much in the last 2 weeks because I've been kind of busy with work and uh, working on my Japanese quite a bit as well. Um, Long story short, without going into any details, I'm working on getting my daytime job switched over to or transferred over to Japan. And that would be great. It's something I've wanted to do for many, many years. It hasn't happened yet. I haven't actually gone through the formal application process, but I'm going to be doing that soon. So I've been working really hard on my Japanese, trying to brush it up and get prepared. In the meantime, I've also been looking for haikus because, uh, as our short story indicates, Aoi is really interested in haikus, and she wouldn't consider herself an expert, but she's she reads them, she loves them, she pays attention to them, and she's looking for one uh, for a chat that she's having with our protagonist, where she first meets her online. And so far, both and Aoi and I have struck out in finding any love haikus. So if you know of any, let me know. Comment on the video, send a message on the website. Just let me know, because I'd like to actually try to cite some examples without having to try to write one. I'm terrible at poetry, absolutely, positively terrible, and so I would rather not write terrible poetry in a story, even though that might be something that's necessary. So let's see if we can cite something, some examples, some real world examples, and if not, well then I'm going to have to make you all suffer through my haikus. But in the meantime, I'm going to continue to work on the short story here, and let me know what you're thinking. for. Sincerely Blue. As I may have indicated in the previous broadcast as well, uh, actually I probably didn't, and I've lost my train of thought, but basically always communicating with JT through internet forum. She obviously has no idea who or what gender or anything else, anything about JT other than JT seems to be interested in haikus, and in particular, love haikus. So she's feeling a sense of obligation since she promised to look into it for him, for JT, uh, not knowing anything about JT. She doesn't know why she feels this obligation, but she does. Do you have any ideas, any thoughts, uh, anything at all? If you're familiar with some haikus and can help me out with actually locating some love haikus, I would really appreciate it. I need obviously the author, the creator's name, approximately when they wrote it, and if there's a title, and I haven't seen a haiku with a title yet, I would appreciate it. Or if you can send me the whole haiku, since they're usually very short, I would appreciate it. Uh, or if you can come up with one yourself, I'd be happy to include you as the author, or cite you as the author inside the story. So get to it. I should get an old-fashioned keyboard or typewriter. Uh, Coincidentally, my coworker had left one on my desk for about 3 months, a few months back, and I really thought about taking it and bringing it home, sit it on my coffee table, just as a talking piece or something to give the apartment a little atmosphere, a little more personality. But I actually went on and sat it in his desk and gave it back to him. And hi, Christina. It wasn't actually functional in any event, so I would have had to have repaired it. But that's something that he apparently does. He likes to collect old typewriters and repair them, so I just let him keep it. But he's always sitting random stuff on my desk. I have no idea why. He's a bit of a prankster. Oh, and in case you don't know, this story, as I'm writing it, is being published online at caught.thirdact.com. So feel free to go there and take a look at the goods page and download it and the other materials and the notes that I've written so far and review them, come up with thoughts, uh, comment here and let me know what you're thinking. Comment there and let me know what you're thinking. Just let me know what you're thinking. Thank you. Yeah, you know how to get in touch with me directly, Christina, so feel free to. Yes, you do. She is about 23, 24 at this point, if I remember correctly. And to fill you in, Christina, the year is roughly 2053. She's an isolated programmer, what's called a NEET, not into employment. She's works on her own. She doesn't go to school. She doesn't go out of the house very much. She's very much an introvert, almost to an extreme. Um, NEET is NEET. You can probably look it up to find out exactly what it means and spells out. It pops up in a lot in anime these days, and apparently in the real world. And it actually started in Europe, if I remember correctly. Someone told me that very recently. UK to be precise, but um, it's very interesting. Um, she's very much, like I said, an introvert and shy. She's a typical or stereotypical Japanese woman at this point. Doesn't do well with interacting with people. Uh, Very appreciative and uncomfortable with praise or positive uh, interactions, I would think, or say in this particular case. Very shy. Ah, you mean I'm doing something right? You give me too much credit, as always. What I'm thinking about doing is just, instead of quoting the response in this particular paragraph here, is just writing it out and indenting it sufficiently so that you know it's a response. And I think I will do that. Set it out and as a standout from the rest of the text. Of course, formatting is something I should do later and worry about later, but meh. Yeah, I think I will italicize it. That should clearly indicate that it's definitely not normal text there. And this seems like a good opportunity to break into my little commercial here. I'll be back in about 48 seconds or so. Please don't go away. Supporting this broadcast, you may do so in several ways. You may make a donation via PayPal at the address shown. You may send Bitcoin to this address. Finally, I am an independent agent for Stream Energy, which offers energy services in 8 states and the District of Columbia, wireless service in 49 states, and a whole host of protective services. Stream offers services that you already use and need. The difference is you'd be buying these as a customer of mine rather than from a faceless corporation. In fact, you too can become an independent agent and become your own boss. For more information and to sign up as a Stream customer or independent agent, visit the address on your screen. Thank you. And I'm back. I'm sorry. Alright. I still need to look into JT's side of things, to work on who she is, and figure out exactly what her birthday is going to be and everything else. That's something I really should have been doing over the last week or so. But I'll get to it. Sorry about that. But yeah, I need to figure out exactly who JT is. But I may just worry about that in a separate short story for her. I did get your message, so I'll take a look at those haikus very shortly, probably immediately after the broadcast. So, thank you very much. Domo arigatou gozaimashita. I actually kind of was debating about trying to put this in Japanese. Yes, JT is also female, though being communicating through a forum, they have no idea even that one is one gender and the other, or that they're both the same gender. And that ultimately is going to be something that factors into the real story when I get around to writing it. But yeah, I started to just go ahead and write this in this little bit in Japanese, mainly because I could, but ultimately I think it's important to show that while JT may have looked up how to say thank you in Japanese, she's not familiar with the language at all. And so she wrote out what she found, essentially. Probably used Google Translate or something like that, rather than trying to manually translate it herself. Isn't that the truth? But we always have the goal of getting around to the real story. But this is definitely just a introductory story about OOA here to try to figure her out. Yeah, I could do that. And in fact, that's something that I was kind of debating. Strictly speaking, I didn't use exactly the correct spelling for uh, Domo. It's actually uh, two O's before or after the D, so Doomo. And so that's kind of a hint to those who really know Japanese. And even then, depending on what character set you use, it would be DOU or DOO instead of just DOMO. Um, in hiragana, domo would be spelled DOUMO through their characters to indicate that it's a long O. Whereas in Romaji, some people would just put I can't think of the proper word for it, but an O with a bar over it. Um, I hate all of the normal or European and worldwide proper accents and so forth on letterings on our standard Roman character set. But so this would look more like DOU like that, and that's kind of what I did here. And it's entirely possible that some translation program, such as Google Translate, might have left out the OU instead of doing it properly in both locations. But I will also probably fill in other details because aside from the use of san uh, in Aoi's first and second emails to JT, there's no indication that within the form so far that there's any way to identify where each one is from. So I'll probably do something a little more specific later on as I fill this story out a little bit better. A botnet is even something that's used these days. It's usually a large network of computers that have been hijacked by uh, malware in one way or another. Basically, they can be used to do a denial of service attack against remote computers or networks. They can be used to actively hack other networks through brute force methods. And generally speaking, they're big, clumsy networks of computers designed to brute force and cause havoc as opposed to quietly slip into some secure system. Uh, they're functional. There's typically tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of computers in these networks, or botnets, that are compromised computers that the owners may not even realize have been compromised. Antivirus software frequently detects compromised computers, but not always, and so it's entirely possible for your computer to be compromised and a part of a botnet without you even realizing it, and being used to hack somebody else or cause a website or service to go offline. Excuse me. Yeah, terrifying, huh? And mass drivers are something that have been in science fiction periodically for, I'd say, about 50, maybe 60 years. I think Arthur C. Clarke originally pioneered them in some of his stories. They're essentially either, they can be, as I'd indicated, giant spears that are placed on a satellite, or they can even be uh, asteroid chunks or chunks of rock that are just dropped out of orbit on a target. Um, Basically, they have no explosives on them. Some don't even have propulsion on them. It's just literally using the force of gravity against a target. And virtually unstoppable. Almost nothing you can do to prevent them from hitting their target if they're properly aimed. I've heard that they can take out large areas or just be precise enough to take out, say, a single building. Depends on who's writing the fiction, I guess. As I indicated in an earlier broadcast, she's something of an elite programmer. She's not terribly careful about who she works for. Does her work freelance from home and will work for whoever she uh, feels like working for. This state of the world is kind of similar to where we are even now. Essentially a Cold War status between the major powers. China continues to grow as a major power. The United States doesn't wane at all, but it's not exactly getting more powerful. Russia has become more resurgent and belligerent. It's kind of a Cold War state back, like a little more tense than what we are now, but not quite the original Cold War from the 50s and 60s all the way through the 80s. But something could trigger a war at any given time in this particular effort, in this particular era, whether it's major or minor. And we're coming up on the end of the broadcast here. 5-minute warning, as it were. I'm going to randomly scroll up and down like I actually am doing something or thinking about something, while I actually do think about something. $10 million yen is roughly $100,000. So it's a fairly large amount of money. And that's more or less how Aoi keeps herself employed. Well, not really employed, but alive and fed and pretty much well stocked on the latest technology. She only does about 1 or 2 jobs per year, really. At least for this level of payment. Alrighty, it was great to have you on, Christina. Thank you for stopping by. And hope you come back in a couple weeks when I do the next broadcast, which may be delayed. I'm debating on coming back to Detroit on the weekend of the 19th. I'm not sure if I will or not. As for the next broadcast, when I decide on the next date, I'll definitely post it on the website, and so everyone knows when I will be broadcasting again. In the meantime, I guess I'll go ahead and wrap up here. We do have about 1 minute. So I will see you all soon. I hope everyone enjoyed the broadcast. I hope you'll come back and give me new ideas, new thoughts, new viewpoints, contribute something, everything, nothing, or just watch the broadcast for all I care. I just want to get your participation. So come on, stop by, and keep an eye out on the website, Twitter, Facebook, anything. Comment, let me know what's going on. Take it easy.